Welcome back to Hannity. A Christian village in northeastern Nigeria was attacked over the weekend, leaving more than 100 people dead. Now, according to CNN, the Boko Haram Islamist insurgent group stormed two villages in Borno, Nigeria, and opened fire, specifically targeting males and forcing some to drown after they jumped in the nearby lake to escape the gunfire. Now, unfortunately, anti-Christian violence extends well beyond Nigeria. In 2013 alone, there have been reports of attacks in Egypt, Libya, Syria, Iraq, Pakistan, and Kenya. So why exactly are Christians being attacked, and why isn't President Obama addressing the violence? Still with us, the co-host of The Five, Bob Beckel, and also joining us from the American Islamic Forum for Democracy, Dr. Zuhdi Jasser. Dr. Jasser, it's happening, and it's happening with some regularity. Why is it happening, and why is so little being said about it?
Well, it's happening, Sean, because basically you have a confluence of dictators across the Middle East, and now you have an Arab awakening, and groups like Boko Haram are filling in the vacuum of this awakening, this increase of populism, if you will. Boko Haram in English means hate and antipathy towards Western education. So they unify their people, their Islamist, political Islam movement, by antagonizing the West and targeting Christians. And just as you saw Jews leaving the Middle East and Muslim majority countries over the past 50 years, now Christians are being attacked and they're having to leave. And this administration took until November till they identified Boko Haram as a terrorist organization. And now we have it exposes the tip of the iceberg, which is no strategy against political Islam.
Bob has raised the point, and I want you to respond to him, Dr. Jasser. You have been, look, I've known you for a long time. You'll joke around, but when you hear an issue like this, you really get worked up.
Yeah.
And you're most angry at moderate Muslims for being silent as their religion is hijacked by radicals.
Well, I'm happy to hear what the doctor said here. My problem has been that there has not been a single, as far as I know, leader of a Muslim country, particularly in any of these countries where these atrocities have happened, that have stood up and said they're wrong, except in Egypt, where the head of the military did briefly. The fact that no imam or anyone else in the religious sects have said anything about this, if you could imagine if this had happened in the United States, the uproar we would have. I mean, I said something about at some point, you're going to have to leave our people alone. You cannot, in some cases, the Christians were there before the Muslims were there.
Let me ask Dr. Jasser this. Now, Bob's right, the silence is deafening. But isn't the reality for people in the countries he's mentioning here that if, in fact, they stood up, a fatwa, they'll be killed, or fear that they'll be killed? How real is that?
It's very real. I mean, not only are we targeted in the West for what we say from these radical groups, but in those countries where the dictators allow this sectarian division to thrive, and it allows them to stay in power as autocrats. And, I would remind Bob and others that if really it was in our DNA as Muslims to be militant or to be radical, then what was the 10 million in the streets against the Brotherhood?
Right.
Those were mostly Muslims in Egypt.
We gave the Brotherhood tanks, and F-16s were so stupid, and the head of the Brotherhood, that was the president, interim president of Egypt, called the Israelis descendants of apes and pigs. That's your president that did that, by the way.
Well, listen, I couldn't agree more that the Obama administration should have spoken out about this earlier and with more force, and continue to do it, because it's gone on over and over and over again.
They gave this guy tanks.
Listen, let's get back to what we're talking about here, which is the death of Christians, the assault on Christianity in these Muslim nations. And when you say that these dictators say nothing about this, and they allow these guys to fill the, what I basically think they are, I think they're cowards. I think that they do worry about a fatwa. I think they are afraid of the Islamic terrorists, and they are just flat out cowards.
Right.
And they represent, supposedly 85% of the Muslims in the world are peaceful or moderate. But I have not heard one of them stand up and say something.
We got to take a break
but
here.
Bob,
real quick.
Yeah.
All right.
These dictators don't represent the people. The majority of Muslims need the help of the West, who want religious liberty. And if we abandon them, the Darwinian theory is going to win.
They've got to speak out too, Dr. Jasser, and their silence is deafening too often. All right. Good to see you. Thank you both. Coming up, the latest insult to